Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we are going over the NFL playoffs. So, there was a handful of you guys and gals that watched my super wild card weekend prediction video. And if you didn't watch it, well, I'll give you a little hint. I went 6-0. And I was pretty prophetic, actually, in quite a few of my picks. So let's just get on into it. We're gonna talk about the games that were, and do a little look forward at the games that are coming up this weekend. Not doing predictions in this video. We're just kind of going over the games that happened in the wild card weekend. Let's see here. I got to click this button. Haha, that's the right button. Okay, so as you can see here, I don't have to change any of this. These were my picks. This is exactly what I picked. So the divisional round is exactly what I envisioned. So let's go ahead and go through the games in order. And I'm just gonna bring up the box score here so we can talk about it. Just it'll give me some talking points. This was the only game I think I kind of, when I say missed on, as you can see here, the line was at -9 for the 49ers. I thought that the Seahawks would cover this game, but I thought that I did say that the Niners would win. I think I picked like 28-23, something like that. I actually picked the Seahawks score exactly right. It was pretty close. In the third quarter, I thought, man, my pick's going to look really, really good here. The Niners are going to pull it out, but then they just had that huge fourth quarter. San Francisco is a scary, scary team, and they played a ho-hum first half. They were still pretty good. The Seahawks got a couple bounces go their way, and they kind of stole a couple. I think they kind of stole a couple scores there at the end of the half, and they just did nothing in the second half. The 49ers defense was so much better. One of the things I said was, about Brock Purdy was, was he going to have enough in the tank, I guess, to go out here and lead a team, to a playoff win. Obviously, experience is a big thing when it comes to winning in the playoffs. Brock Purdy, obviously, in his first playoff game. Of course, so was Geno Smith, for that matter. At least I think yesterday or this weekend was his first playoff game. If it wasn't, it was his first playoff game of any relevance. So Brock Purdy really had a great day. Obviously, his QBR 89.5, quarterback rating of 131.5. Tremendous game. The thing that I really like about Brock Purdy, when I was watching, I didn't watch the entire game, but I think I watched the first three quarters. I didn't watch the fourth quarter when it kind of got out of hand. Started doing some other things around the house, but Brock Purdy is confident in the pocket. And he's mobile. He's a lot more mobile than I thought he was. I thought he was kind of just a pocket passer. He's definitely not that. He can move around in the pocket. He can make plays with his feet. And Christian McCaffrey is just the ultimate weapon. And he has, fortunately for the 49ers, he has been healthy this entire postseason, basically since they got him. He had a really big game. Deebo Samuel obviously had a tremendous game here. Let's look through as we look through here the stats. I mean, Deebo Samuel had 3 carries for 32 yards, and then just blew it up. He was 165 total yards on the day, and 2 touchdowns or 1 touchdown. I thought that's right because Purdy had the other one. Just a really, really, really solid game out of the 49ers here. Not much else to say. They were a big favorite, obviously, at -9, and they blew it away. They basically covered the total almost themselves. The over under at 42, and it went way over at 64. So 49ers really, really impressive. I will say this, being the 2-7 game, a lot of times these 2-7 games are not that competitive. The only competitive 2-7 games, both ironically enough, the Bills have played in both of them. And we'll get to the Bills here in just a second. So congratulations to the 49ers for moving on. And they're going to be taking on the Dallas Cowboys, which we'll get to the Cowboys here in just a minute. All right, so this game here, I was playing poker at a friend's house when this game when this game was on, and so I didn't get a chance to watch it with a lot of intensity because we were playing poker at the same time. But the game was on. Obviously, paid enough attention to know what was happening. I was completely shocked at the final result. I was definitely at halftime, even well into the third quarter. I was pretty certain that I was going to miss this pick. I picked the Jaguars to win. I did not see this happening, and there was a lot of things that the Jaguars did. I thought that was pretty crazy. Obviously, everything snowballed them at the very beginning. Trevor Lawrence, the first pick, I'm not going to even say was his fault. It was tipped twice, but the next three interceptions were poor passes. It was him trying to do too much, and then the turnover on the punt return where he hits the guy in the head. This was classic, too big of a scene for the Jaguars. Fortunately for them, they were playing Brandon Staley and the Los Angeles Chargers. There's a famous saying going around the NFL that's been going around for years that Chargers are going to charger. And basically means they're gonna beat themselves eventually. They're gonna do something, to let the other team back in the game. As a Kansas City fan, this typically always was something we always said about the Raiders. That was what Marty Schottenheimer used to say all the time back in the 90s, was that, just keep the game close and eventually the Raiders will shoot themselves in the foot. Well, I think that's still true of the Raiders, but it's definitely true of the Chargers. The thing that I don't understand about San Diego, or Los Angeles, sorry, I still call them San Diego, even though they haven't been there since 2016. What I don't understand was their defense in the second half. And I went back and watched some of the key moments of the game since like I said, I couldn't really study it while I was playing cards. But I went back and watched quite a bit of it on Sunday. And, in between the games or in between some low points when I wasn't paying as much attention to some of especially like the Sunday night game. Or not the Sunday night game, the Sunday afternoon game. The thing that I'd really noticed was troubling, and I don't understand this about Brandon Staley because he's a defensive-minded coach. They changed their defense completely in the second half. They were no longer sitting on those short routes, the kind of the medium range. They weren't sitting on those routes. They were basically playing off. They just allowed. It's like they went into a prevent defense in the third quarter, and they were definitely playing not to lose, and they lost. If they continue to play, they don't have to play with the same intensity or the same pressure that they did in the first half, but come on, this is the playoffs. You lose and you're done. There's no round robin tournaments, no double elimination. This isn't Texas League softball here. This is the NFL playoffs, and if you lose, you're done. There's no 3-game series. And why would you go away from what you did? I mean, there was legitimate different defense being called in the second half. And when I was watching it, being a Chiefs fan, and I was hoping that the Jaguars would win because if the favorites all won out, I would much rather play the Jaguars than the Chargers as a Chiefs fan. But I was still watching these replays, and I could not understand what Brandon Staley was doing. And I honestly thought, I'm like, this is gonna be the it. This is it for this guy. He's done. He's toast. He's gonna get fired after this game. Now they did fire the offensive coordinator. They fired the linebackers coach, and I think the quarterbacks coach. They fired a bunch of people. They didn't fire Staley. So I guess thanks for that. I mean, Brandon Staley, he's gotten away from what made him a great young coach early on. He was kind of this maverick. He took a lot of chances. He was known as the guy who was kind of breaking the mold of the traditional coach of, it's 4th and 3, from your own 40-yard line, and the analytics tell you to go for that, even on your side of the field. And most coaches punt that. And Staley would, a lot of times, he would go for these things and he would be successful at it. Now he would get criticism for it too, and I think he has really thin skin. I think he let that criticism get the best of him over the past couple of years, and he's gone away from what made him kind of this up and coming young coach who was trending in the upward direction. And now, even though he finally made the playoffs with Justin Herbert for the first time in 3 years, this team is on a downward trajectory. I mean, who knows what the Raiders are going to do? I have to believe that the Broncos are going to be better next year, even though we like to make fun of the Broncos here in Kansas City. Russell Wilson is not that incompetent as we saw this year. Maybe he is, but the Denver defense is for real. And it's not going to take much for Denver to step up ahead of Los Angeles. If Russell Wilson comes back and plays at a decent, halfway decently, probably because they're going to be really stuck up against the cap situation. But anyway, this is not a video about the cap. This is about reviewing the games that were. On the Jaguars side of the ball, I don't think you can have two different halves like you did with Trevor Lawrence from the first half to the second half. And he was near perfect in the second half. I think his rating in the second half was like 140, and it was like 0 in the first half, even though he still threw a touchdown right at the end of the second quarter. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is this, is God's gift to quarterbacks or the NFL, like some people are making him out to be. I think he's a fine up and coming quarterback, but I think Doug Peterson has done a really good job of getting the most out of him. I think maybe he's gotten more out of him this year than maybe what he has as an NFL quarterback. Definitely got more out of him than Urban Meyer did, but Urban Meyer was that guy was just a whack job. So, so they're going to move on to face the Chiefs, and Jacksonville doesn't do a whole lot, that I think that scares the Chiefs. The Chiefs kind of sleptwalked through that game against them and were up by 3 scores, and Jacksonville got a late touchdown to pull within 10, but looked a little closer than it was. So I don't give the Jags much of a chance to beat the Chiefs this Saturday, but any given Sunday, or now Saturday, any given weekend, any team can win, and the Chiefs are definitely going to have to not fall prey to looking ahead to facing the Bills at the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. So congratulations to the Jaguars. Tremendous comeback. The third best comeback in NFL playoff history, behind only obviously the Bills coming back against the Oilers in 1992. And then, of course, the second biggest against my Chiefs, down 28 points. The Colts coming back in 2013, down 38-10. I still cannot get over that game. They had that game won. Oh my gosh. I'm not even talking about it. Not going to talk about it. All right, let's go over to the Bills game. Now, I did miss the over or the number here. I did have the Bills over. I took the Bills with the points. Had them to covering the 14 number there. I think it was maybe actually 13 when I was doing the video, but I can't remember. Regardless, I had the Bills winning by 17. I think it was like 38-21 was the number I think I had them at. 34-31. This was a game that Miami played a lot better than I thought they would. Now, all that being said, Miami didn't play. When I said they played better, they had better results than what I thought was going to happen. I honestly thought the Bills were going to come in and just steamroll them out of the stadium like they did the Patriots last year in the first round. But this game was hard to watch. This game took this was a legitimate I think it was 4 hours and 20 minutes it took to play this game. It was such a long football game. There were so many incomplete passes. There was so much stoppage of clock. It was a hard game to watch. The game didn't have a lot of flow, and I think that actually benefited the Dolphins in this game and Skylar Thompson. Look, if you can see Thompson's numbers here on the screen, he did not have good numbers. 18 of 45. I mean, 4.9 yards per attempt. He threw one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see, quarterback do. But he's a rookie third-string quarterback. You can't expect him to go into Buffalo and do much better than what he did. And his receivers didn't do anything. I mean, Tyreek Hill. I mean, let's look at Tyreek Hill here. Tyreek Hill. He had 7 catches for 69 yards. He was targeted 15 times. 15 times. Now, does the app, did they talk about drops here? It doesn't look like it. The box score used to track drops. 15 targets for Tyreek Hill. And I was just screaming on that last drive. Get the ball to Hill. Let him work in space. He's your best. He'll be your best friend. If you just get him the ball. I mean, Jalen Weddle, 3 catches for 44 yards, 7 targets. I don't even know who's Salvin Ahmad is. 3 catches and 45 yards, 5 targets. Yeah, Gasecki was targeted 6 times and caught 2 passes. One of them was a touchdown. It's just, he targeted Jeff Wilson 4 times. These guys just did not make catches. They didn't contest for the ball. It was just a really, really poor offensive plan. And the thing that made it worse for Miami, they probably could have pulled out a miraculous win, except Mike McDaniels, their head coach, just continuously kept getting the play calls in late to his offensive unit. The amount of timeout, they had to burn all 3 of their timeouts in the second half, just inexplicably, saving delays a game. Now let's talk about that for a second. I cannot get over the fact that you're backed up on your own side of the field. It's 3rd and 10. You have Skylar Thompson, who's averaging less than 5 yards on an attempt, and you burn your second timeout to save a 3rd and 15 situation. You really think Skylar Thompson's going to convert there on 3rd and 10, backed up in his own field? Just run a draw play, take the penalty, run a draw play, and punt the ball. Because what happened next? He picked up 4 yards in the pass, and now it was 4th and 6. So you burned a timeout just to get 4 yards for your punter? So you're punting, you're at the 29 instead of the 25? It made no sense what they were doing. Taking those timeouts to save 5 yards of field position. And then at the end of the game, there was the one play, they were already out of timeouts. It was the 4th and inches. And my son and I were watching it. We were screaming at them, get the play call in. And you see guys running in, running off, just complete chaos on the Bill side. Now, the head coach, he was talking about how the refs told him it was a first down play. I don't really believe that. I think it's just him trying to cover his butt. So then he had to get a different package in there. But he ran like 2 different units on and off the field. And they even reset the play clock because I guess there had been an injury because it got down to 11, 12 seconds. And then they reset it to 25. And I'm like, okay, well, that'll give them more time. And they still didn't break the huddle. And they didn't break the huddle until 6 seconds left. And I'm like, what is going on? And even the times when they got the play off on the play, there was, I counted 7 times they could have been called, not including the times when they took timeouts, but 7 other times in that second half where they should have been called for a delay of game. That's just inexcusable. I mean, you had the team that Tony Romo kept calling the champs. I don't know why he kept calling the Bills the champs. They haven't won anything. But you had them on the ropes. You had them, fumbling around, and this is the way you respond to that. You completely choked the game away. Miami should have won this game. There's no excuse for it. And I know Mike McDaniel took a lot of credit, or took a lot of heat for him taking the credit for the bad stuff, which I give him. I give him props for doing that. I'm not one of these guys who's going to overreact and say that you should fire Mike McDaniel, because I think he's a good head coach. But some of the stuff, he needs help. He needs someone to come in there and help him, manage this game, or help with the play call or something. I don't think he would give away the game management portion to somebody else. The head coach is always responsible for that. But he needs some help. He needs somebody else on the coaching staff to come in and take away some of those responsibilities, so we can free him up to make the decisions that need to be made. And part of this too is this was his first time as a head coach, coaching in the playoffs. He'll learn from this, but are they going to be back? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Tua is ever going to be playing again. I mean, that's just the weirdest thing ever. All the concussions he's had this year, and he's not a very big guy. So long-term longevity with Tua is probably not the biggest. It's not going to be the greatest thing for Miami. They're going to be looking for another quarterback here in a year or two. So, and as it pertains to Buffalo, I think they're just, survive and advance, move on to the next round to face the Bengals. Look, Josh Allen goes into hero mode too many times and tries to do things on his own when he thinks that he's the only one who can do it. And Buffalo's got a good assortment of weapons around them. Some of them play better than others. Josh Allen did everything he could to lose this game. He turned the ball over 3 times and could have and almost had 2 other turnovers. Actually, almost 3 more turnovers. He could have turned the ball over 6 times in this game, but fortunately for him and the Bills, they only turned it over 3 times. He was sacked 7 times, just held on to the ball for far too long. Just inexplicably just kept throwing bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. And he completed a couple of them, but for the most part, they were almost all incompletions, all contested passes down the field. Just, it reminds me of when you played, Madden football, on the Xbox or on the PlayStation, and you just get into like this mode as the human player playing against the AI, or sometimes even playing against another person. But if you're playing against the AI, everybody knows about the rubber banding thing, and it's like you just eventually the AI does catch on to what you're doing, but it's like you just refuse to change. You just keep throwing those long go routes to your best wide receiver. It's not going to work. They got a safety over the top. Now, I will say that Miami played a lot of cover 0, cover 1 in this game. Didn't have a lot of safety help. So I give them all the credit in the world for sticking with those receivers. But man alive, Buffalo did not look good in this game. Any other team they play, if they bring this type of game, they're gonna lose. Now, Buffalo has a tendency to play to their competition, and I think that they will play better against Cincinnati. And, when we make the next video coming out Friday afternoon, we'll give an official prediction on that game. So, again, congrats to the Bills for moving on. But, man, they made this game much more closer than it needed to be. And, honestly, Miami had every shot in the world to win. And this really, in my opinion, downgrades the Bills as legitimate Super Bowl contenders, the way they played in this game. And I'm not just saying that as a Chiefs fan because I don't want the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I was been very vocal when I made when I was going down to week 16, week 15, week 16, when I was pretty adamant, pretty certain that the Bills were going to be the 1 seed, and I was picking whoever was the 1 seed, in the AFC. I was picking them to win the Super Bowl. I don't know why I turned my hat around there. It doesn't matter. But all right, let's go on to what I consider the best game of the weekend, the Giants and the Vikings. I watched most of this game. I did watch some of the stuff on YouTube, some of the highlights from the night before the Bengals or the Jaguars game while this game was going on. But this game was a really fun game to watch. And Daniel Jones, who's gotten a lot of crap over the years, Daniel Jones had a really, really, really good game. As you can see here on the screen, 300 yards, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns. And what I didn't know about Jones was that he was a good runner. And as you can see here, picked up 78 yards on the ground, only 4.6 yards. He ran a couple of those power run plays on that Josh Allen likes to run. I didn't realize that was part of Daniel Jones's repertoire, but I was really impressed with him. I mean, with Brian Dable, the coach, who was obviously used to be at Buffalo, he's kind of turned Daniel Jones into a miniature version of Josh Allen. Now, I'm not going to say it's 100% that way. I was kind of making jokes in the comment section on YouTube and it's on Twitter about how I was saying that Josh Allen is a poor man's Daniel Jones. I was just trying to rile up some Bills fans. Nobody took the bait on it though. So, but Daniel Jones was very, very solid in this game. Some of that is against the Vikings defense. Their secondary is not that good. As a matter of fact, I think it was ranked 31st in the league, if I'm not mistaken. But this was a game I picked. I picked the Giants to win this game. I picked 28-24, so I got the score exactly, or the Vikings score exactly right. Just had the Giants essentially kicked an extra field, had an extra 3 points than I thought they were going to get. So I did have the Giants winning this game. By 4 points. They ended up winning by 7. And they dominated down the stretch. Their defense was really good. Their defensive line without blitzing was overmatched the offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. And when you look at Kirk Cousins' numbers, this is where I think Minnesota is really going to need, to really do a gut check and a soul check on what they want to do at quarterback. You can see it here on the screen. Look at Cousins' numbers. 31 for 39. That's good. That's actually really good. 7 yards an attempt. You'd want a little better, but you can live with that. 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He wasn't sacked. And when I said that, their offensive line was bad, I was talking about they were constantly getting pressure and forcing him to do other things, and made their running game pretty much non-existent. His QBR, 85.2, passer rating of 113. Those are great numbers. I mean, if you were to look at that in a vacuum, you would say, man, that's the winning quarterback right there. But he's not. He wasn't the winning quarterback. Kirk Cousins is, he's the Toyota Corolla. He's the Honda Accord. Okay, he's going to get you there. He's going to be reliable, but he's not going to wow you, and he's not going to win you any contest. He's not going to win a race. You put that Toyota Camry or that Honda Accord in a race. Yeah, it's a reliable car. It ain't going to go up. It's not going to win anything. It's what most everybody else has. Minnesota, if they really want to move up and they want to be who they think they can be, especially playing in the NFC North, where it looks like Green Bay is going to be taking a step back, but also looks like the Lions are taking a step up. Look, the Vikings, they need a better quarterback. And I have been a defender of Kirk Cousins for a long time, because but again, I didn't watch him play a whole lot. I gotta take these things out. This thing doesn't. I don't need those headphones in. It's hard to hear myself. Since I haven't watched a ton of Kirk Cousins, I'm just looking at the stats over the past 5 years or so, and I'm like, man, his numbers look actually pretty good. I mean, what's the big deal? Why don't people like him? He doesn't win when it matters, and that's to his detriment, and that's to whoever has him on their team, their detriment. The Vikings were -2 or -3 in point differential this year, and they finally lost a one-score game. Look, they were playing with fire all season long, and it bit them here in the playoffs. And I saw this game coming. I thought, the Giants were going to come in here, and I didn't think they would come in here as easily. Now, this game was a good game, but the Giants got up early, and they just kind of kept the Vikings at arm's length the entire game. So, congrats to the Giants. Congrats to Brian Daboll. I talked about in the last video how there's like this talk about him possibly being the coach of the year. He'll probably end up winning it. I don't think he should, but I definitely think should get some consideration. All right, so let's talk about the Ravens and the Bengals. Can someone explain to me who sold their soul for the Bengals to get this lucky? The Bengals are the luckiest team in football, and I don't understand it. If you go back and watch my videos from a year ago, I've fully documented how incredibly fortunate they were to get to the Super Bowl. Just unbelievable luck, fluky things that were happening. They didn't even play that. They did not play that well in the playoffs, and they still made the Super Bowl because of just some unreal things that were happening. This game, they ended up playing against Tyler Huntley, played a decent game, but down the stretch, he just did not make the plays he needed to. I don't know what else to say about this game. It looked like the Ravens were going to go in and go up by a touchdown, and then Huntley just inexplicably did exactly the opposite of what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to go low in the quarterback sneak, but instead he tried to go high. He tried to jump 2 yards, and then the ball was returned or a touchdown. It's not so bad that he fumbled. The fumbling there is really, really tough. But it was the fact that it went right into a Bengals player's hands who was facing the opposite direction, and everybody else was facing the other way, and he just ran 98 yards for a touchdown. And I don't understand how they didn't call a block in the back on the return there, because it was a clear block in the back. Now, would it have changed anything? I don't know, maybe not. But the Bengals offense was doing absolutely nothing. I mean, Joe Burrow did not have a great game. He was pedestrian at best, and their run game was non-existent. The Ravens were really, really good on defense. The Ravens should have won this game. The Bills and Bengals, who are the Chiefs, the two biggest threats to the Chiefs to even get to the Super Bowl, the Bills and the Bengals both should have lost in this opening weekend. And then I'm not ashamed to say that, I obviously picked the Bengals to win this game, and I picked this game 24 or 23-17. I was 1 point off on this one. So this one I picked almost exactly correct as well. Just an inexplicable performance by the Ravens down the stretch, and then not getting the plays in, and then taking up so much time. They wasted, by my account, 50 seconds on that last drive when you really would have wanted that extra time. You could have been a little more creative on the third and fourth down plays, I think. But even then, on that fourth down pass into the end zone, whoever that number 3 was, who was that? Let's go through here and let's see if I can find him. Was it Ricard? No, that's their fullback. Here. It was, I know it was number, yeah, this guy. James Porsche, or however you say that. Or Proshi, or I don't know how you pronounce it. He didn't have any catches in the game, but he was right there, and he could have, the ball went right through his hands off the deflection. It wasn't like it was a hard deflection. It was just like, just a little like feather just dropping from the sky. All you have to do was catch it like this and pull it in, and the game is tied, or possibly you win the game on a 2-point conversion. So now I'm not gonna fault the guy that much. I mean, what am I doing here? Let's go back to I was trying to click on the OBS screen as opposed to the Chrome screen, which is actually on that monitor over there. But I can see it on OBS here, so it gets me a little confused because it's on this side. I got to go over here, but it's really on my right side. It's on the left side, whatever. So I think the Bengals stock in this game dropped, and now the Bengals are going to take on the Bills in the next round. This is a game where they're going to beat each other up. I think there's going to be a little kumbaya love at the beginning, from the Damar Hamlin thing that happened and his injury. But there wasn't a whole lot of that talk this weekend, unless you count the Bills fans who said they meant to win by 3 points because that's Damar Hamlin's number. Give me a break, Bills fans. You guys are trying to milk this thing for all it's worth. I mean, it's time to move on, okay? And I initially thought that the Bengals, when I made the predictions, when we come over here and look at these, of course, I had the I thought I did pick the Bengals to go here and the Chiefs to go there. That's right. I don't know when I make my official predictions here in a couple days if I'm going to stick with that. I may end up going with the Bills just because the offensive line of Cincinnati is just really banged up. They lost another offensive lineman. I don't know if he's going to be out or not. Let's actually take a look at this, see if there's any news. Bengals say left tackle Williams has dislocated kneecap. That's an injury that at the best you're going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. Patrick Mahomes had that in 2019. He missed the rest of the Denver game, and then he missed the Green Bay game, and he missed the Minnesota Viking game. So he basically was out for 3 games. And when he came back against the Titans, when the game they lost, that was the last game they lost that year, and then they won the Super Bowl. But that was he had no rushing attempts in that game against the Titans. So, yeah, this doesn't look like a good situation here. Losing their starting left tackle. Now, he is not that good anyway. He was a pretty poor offensive lineman, and the guy they put in there was just atrocious. The Ravens just completely they just kept beating him up. So I don't know what's going to happen. When the Bengals face the Bills. I think Burrow is a better quarterback, but look, if he's not upright, the Bills are going to probably win that game. So it's going to take a little more analysis. I'm going to have to do a little more digging into this before I make a pick on that. But the good thing is that both of the teams cannot move on. So, I have the Chiefs obviously beating the Jaguars. But the Chiefs are going to face one of their nemesis in the AFC Championship game. And so they're going to have to play one of them to get to the Super Bowl. All right, so let's talk about the final game. Now, this one, I got this one almost exactly right. I picked a 35-21 win for the Cowboys. I said this game would not be close. I said the Cowboys would blow out the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. I said that Brady and the Bucs were not a good team. They were overrated. They were a shell of their former self. And everything came out to be exactly true in this game from what I said. The Cowboys got off a little slow start, and of course their kicker just could not kick extra points. Otherwise, they would have it exactly 35 points for what I predicted. The ironic thing was that I said they'd be up by 3 touchdowns, and then the Tampa Bay would get a late touchdown to make it, a two touchdown game. That's why I said 35-21. And if he had made his extra points, they would have 35 points because he missed 4 extra points. It's just ridiculous. But still, the flow of this game, I got it exactly right. Am I going to pat myself in the back? Yeah, I am. You know why? Because I went 6-0. And this was a game where a lot of people were picking Tampa Bay because they were playing at home and it's Tom Brady and the mystique of Tom Brady. But Tom Brady has been losing. They beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in 2020, and then last year they lose in the divisional round. Now they lose in the first round, and Brady is looking older. When you look at his numbers, 351 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, you're like, okay, well that's pretty good. Well, he threw the ball 66 times, and most of those points and yards, it came when the game was over. I mean, it was 24-0 late in the third quarter when Tampa Bay finally scored. And then Dallas came right back and got another touchdown. This game was this was not a close game, and Dak Prescott played an unbelievable game. Not unbelievable. Sometimes people use that word as kind of the superlative. He played tremendously well, and what do the Cowboys do from here? So let's talk about some of these matchups here in the next round of the playoffs. Again, not giving my predictions here. Just want to spend a couple minutes of time here. I'm at 37 minutes. I want to try to make this 45 minutes or less on this video. Bills and Bengals. Again, a lot of this is going to depend on the health of the offensive line. I think the Bengals are in real trouble, to be honest with you, with the offensive line status. But the Bills they're banged up too, and these teams are going to beat on each other. I think they're going to expend all their energy in this game, and whoever is the winner, I think, is going to lose to the Chiefs. And I do have right here, the Chiefs and the Jaguars. There's a lot of trendy picks of people saying that the Jaguars are, they have a chance here. Of course, every team has a chance, especially in the playoffs. You don't get this far in the playoffs if you're not a good team. But the strengths that the Chiefs have play right into the weaknesses that the Jaguars have. The Jaguars do not have a good secondary. The Jaguars, if Brandon Staley doesn't lose his mind, they win that game by two or three touchdowns. And we saw this game earlier this year. The Chiefs were kind of disinterested in Week 10. They beat the Jaguars 27-17. It was 27-10 late in the game. They got a garbage touchdown to make it look a little closer. The Chiefs were -3 in turnovers that day, and the Jaguars recovered an onside kick, so they had +4 possessions, and they still got beat by double digits. Really, they were down by 3 scores, even being +4. And this, I guess I said this wasn't going to be a prediction. I would probably offer a little bit here, but I really like the Chiefs big here. Eagles and Giants. This is going to be an interesting game. The Eagles are a much more talented team. The Giants are not going to have. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to look as good against that defensive front of the Eagles, who set a NFL record for sacks in a season. I think he's going to be running for his life. I'm going to be kind of pulling for the Giants to win because I always like the underdog to win on games that don't matter to me. But I don't see that happening. And then again, the Niners and the Cowboys, I really think is the game of the week. the 49ers have one of the most complete rosters in the league. The Cowboys looked like Super Bowl contenders beating the Bucs. Now, what will they look like when they play the 49ers? We'll see. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to come down to the final possession. I really do. I think this is going to be a game where I'm not necessarily saying the team with the ball last wins, but because I hate that phrase. But I do think that Cowboys fans should feel a lot more confident about your team going into this game against the 49ers. The 49ers are not unbeatable. Okay, they have a rookie quarterback, and no rookie quarterback has ever led his team to the Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl. No rookie quarterback's ever led his team to the Super Bowl. So it's, the 49ers, I don't know. This is going to be a tough one. These picks are not going to be, I thought that my picks, in the wild card round, the 6 games, I thought I was going to honestly go 5-1. I was kind of thinking that I was going out on a limb picking the Giants over the Vikings, but I went 6-0. So am I going to go 4-0 here on the divisional round? Well, maybe. The only one I really care about is the Chiefs, but we'll see. But yeah, we'll break down the matchups on Friday in my next video, and then we'll give my official predictions and official scores and my picks against the spread as well. So I think I was actually 4-2 against. I was 6-0 overall. I was 6-0 straight up and 4-2 against the spread. So, I'm pretty confident. Wait, yeah, because I picked this one. This was Jags were the underdog, so I got that one right. Regardless, I picked this one right. I picked the Bengals, and I picked the Ravens to cover. I picked the Bills, but I've got the over then, so I got the pick right, but I missed against the spread. I got this one right. Cowboys plus the points, or minus the points. Giants were the underdog, so I got that one right too. But I missed the Niners against the spread. So I was 4-2 against the spread, but 6-0 overall. So again, I'm not a bettor. I'm not a gambler. So I typically just go with straight up picks, and I think I did a pretty decent job this weekend. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm going to spend the next couple, evenings after work kind of digging into these matchups and, watching some videos, see what other people say, and then comparing it to what I saw over the weekend. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional NFL analyst or anything like that, but just a fan who watches the games. And I really do love this time of year. I love NFL playoffs. I used to kind of be not against the NFL, but I was kind of indifferent. Really, I was always been a Chiefs fan my whole life, but I kind of lost interest when the Chiefs really were so poor. But then, even when Alex Smith was the quarterback, I was like, he's never going to take us anywhere. So I was just kind of moderately interested. But when they started playing Mahomes, I kind of came back around to liking the league again. And the league stopped, going to war with its fans. And I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to go into details there, but I think there were a lot of things that the league did that were not good for the fans. But which is why Roger Goodell gets booed as much as he does, to be honest with you. So, anyway, that's the kind of weekend in review for the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content. I'm going to be back on Friday with my official predictions for the divisional round of the playoffs. Until then, thanks everybody. Leave a comment down below, and we'll talk to you later.